Hello, everyone. I'm here after a long hiatus, coming out for a brief moment to do a video in response to Rob and Reemie's videos about the rebirth of the masculine. So a couple of people in our little small community have done videos. I wasn't sure if I should, but I was talking to Eve at Everlong Mystic last night, and I just decided to pull a card. And before I could even shuffle, this Knight of Swords in reverse came out. And what this said to me was something about destruction. You know, this coming out, this is like a big example, like probably one of the most destructive examples of an unbalanced masculine. So I took some time to think about that recently, and spoiler alert, I watched the movie The Eternals, and to not get into too much detail, there was this theme of, you know, in order for creation to still exist, or, you know, the cycle of the universe and creation, in order for life to still exist, basically entire worlds had to be sacrificed. It's like the birth of these gods. I'm just going to call it that. I know that's not what they're called in the comics or the movie. Had to happen by basically destroying an entire planet. Like, think of the planet as an egg, and it, you know, it's fed off the life on the planet to eventually burst out and everybody dies. So in that movie, I'm not going to give away the ending, even though I think it's obvious. The characters decide that they don't believe continuing creation is worth destroying life over. It's like, why can't creation continue without destruction? And I guess the idea is like the cycle of life is it's death and life, death, rebirth, you know. But destruction, you know, it's something that's like very violent. How much is actually necessary? And somehow I think this plays into how the masculine will be reborn and take their place. But this also involves the feminine. And on my split of cards, at the bottom of the split was Two of Pentacles, indicating to me like balance. And on the other side was this Nine of Pentacles, which is the independent feminine. So it gave me this idea that in this like recent shift, that women, or the feminine, I'll just say feminine, right? And mostly through women, maybe. Let's not get into it. The feminine has had to learn to take control, to be more independent without the help of the toxic masculine, because the balance had swung too far to one side. But it's almost saying here to me that this balance, in order to not create destruction and this rebirth of the masculine, there has to be a balance. And the feminine has to be more willing to receive, or open to receiving. And under that Nine of Pentacles was judgment. So I don't believe this is indiscriminate reception of masculine energy. I think it leaves a lot of room for discernment. We don't have to just accept the actions that are enacted upon us. We don't have to just sit there and receive and just not have any control over our own lives. And then under the Two of Pentacles, this seemed to be a bit more the masculine side. So there's like this idea of the masculine having confidence in their own creations with this Wands energy, being confident in the fact that they can create, and it doesn't have to, their only job does not have to be to destroy. And by creating, they gain access to deeper emotions, deeper feelings. And this kind of like, to me, this is representing the healthy shadow, the shadow that's not suppressed. because the extreme anger and destruction comes from suppressing this shadow, from suppressing the feelings. And next, I guess I'll continue with the masculine, this Ace of Swords. It's like by accepting the dark, deep feelings inside, there's a bit of like purity, there's a bit of justice served, there's balance, the truth can come out, right? So it's like, with the swords being mental energy, by digging deep into those emotions, into the deepest, darkest emotions, we can actually think clearer. We can actually make better decisions. And, the sword versus, say, the gun, for example. The gun is like very destructive. The sword is precise, right? The sword, even, it's like, if you know anything about sword fighting, you cannot just chop things with a sword and be successful. There has to be a measure of control. Like, you have to know when to stop, when to hold back your swing, when to put in full force. There's a lot of control. There's a lot of precision and using the sword rather than, say, a gun or some other kind of explosive. There's precision in like aiming a gun, but you can't control how fast the bullet goes. You can't control how much damage the bullet does. You can't. So up near the feminine, again, the next after judgment was the world. So it's like the feminine, in order to properly end this cycle and restart, and essentially I feel like this is like guarding the world. It's, even in the movie, it was, the feminine hero, the female hero, who was able to convince the rest of them that the destruction was not necessary. So there's something here about the world and the planet and what happens to the planet with this rebirth of whatever this energy is, this brand new masculine, whether it's a new deity, whether it's a messenger, it's something that's going to change things. It's like, it's the responsibility of the feminine with this Queen of Cups to remain open and care for what already exists here, to be the guardians of what has already grown here, right? To protect so it's not all destroyed. There are certain things that need to stay. There are certain things that are still important for the new era. And it's like the feminine is the one who's in the best position to do so. But it involves like not dismissing the masculine energy, not deeming that the masculine has already failed. Because at the bottom of the splits, for the feminine pile was the devil, and for the masculine pile was the tower. So it's like, if the feminine tries to control the situation too much, or demands that it's done only in the way that suits the feminine, it's going to cause this destruction, because the masculine has to be reborn. It has to come out. The balance has to be restored. So the less the feminine tries to control it, the less we're heading towards this outcome. And in my own, this was reinforced in my own personal reading yesterday. So when I split the Mystical Shaman deck, I got the Mystical Shaman in reverse and the Wild Woman in reverse. So the Mystical Shaman in reverse is basically, let me just take it out. This is being comfortable with your creativity, and this being like, I'll consider this, for the sake of this reading, a masculine counterpart to that Wild Woman. This is about creating, being comfortable with your own creations and your own emotions. So it's like a warning to the masculine. Whereas this Wild Woman in reverse is about letting things flow and not trying to control everything. So that just reinforced the message for me there, that this is about the masculine going with the flow. No, masculine getting out and creating in a more positive way, not embracing destruction, not embracing suppression, not only of themselves, but of others, you know. Oh, and actually, which one was which? The middle world was under the wild woman, so that kind of enforces that it's the feminine's job to protect the middle world, and the rainbow was underneath the mystical shaman. And I honestly don't know what this means, but I'm getting, this is kind of like, I'm not going to say cosmic, celestial energy, or like the sky, whatever fancy word for the sky. And then in my reading too, I split the goddess deck, and it was Mary in reverse, and then Gaia. So this Mary in reverse is basically about believing in miracles, but one of the key things that it says is that Mary didn't need a man to create a miracle. And I think that's like a message saying, hey, you know, the feminine is perfectly capable of running things. The feminine is whole on their own. They do not need the masculine to create miracles. But Mary gave birth to a masculine figure, so you can't completely discount it. And then this Gaia Earth is really also reinforcing me the message. And look, she's pregnant even. Oh my gosh. Oh man. So protecting the Earth, and the Earth, oh man, the planet giving birth. You guys got to just watch the movie, okay? Watch the movie. Yeah, I did. I just realized that she was pregnant there. And then she was pregnant too. And I don't know if I wanted to pull any more cards, but I think the overall message is just destruction can be prevented when there's balance. Let's see. Journey to wholeness. So this is really about the two energies coming together, the masculine and the feminine coming together in a balanced way. You know, the feminine's ahead. You know, the feminine's ahead. She's come through, she's been reborn, and now it's the masculine's turn. Then there's full spectrum. I don't even know what this means. I've never used this deck, and today I decided, oh, there's a Merkaba there. There's a Merkaba in the earth. Look at that. Wow. Yeah, there's something here about protecting what's already in the planet. Like, that is the feminine's job here. That is the feminine's job. Like, the feminine seems to have the proper discernment to know what's still needed, what's good, and what's bad. Then we got unique gifts. That's 55 too, so we got a 33 and a 55. I don't know what that's saying. Look at that image. It's kind of freaky. But this looks like, yeah. It's almost like, because this is the Lemurian Oracle, you know, the kind of destruction that happened back then, maybe this is reminiscent of that time, because back then, Lemurians were, the feminine and masculine were together. And then when we became the earth as 3D, they split because they couldn't exist as one on the same dimension. So they had to split to become the masculine and feminine. So it's almost like we have to come back together now. Ooh. But maybe that doesn't mean being in one body. How can we be in union without needing that 3D representation? It's like we've separated and we've learned our lessons, and now it's time to integrate together to fully, how do you say, cement those lessons or keep passing them on. And then there's vulnerability here. So there is, when there's a time when, you know, when Voltron's coming together, that's got to be a really vulnerable moment, and it takes forever. So coming together, yeah, it's okay. It's okay though. And let me see, I'm just going to split the deck here. The mirror. This is the archetype stack. So there is something here about that. Let's see. Yeah. Witnessing or realizing that we are two sides of the same coin. The masculine and the feminine are the same, but two sides. So I think that's all the messages I have. And yeah, I'm interested to see everyone else's messages. Thanks.